Johnny, did you know that April is Earth Month?
I did know that, and Earth Day is at the end of the month, right?
Mm-hmm. April 22nd every year.
Every year.
Yep.
Did you know that Earth Day has a very special relationship to something that recently happened in the news, the Artemis II voyage around the moon?
No, I didn't know.
Oh, yeah. Well, we get to it in this conversation we have coming up in the podcast.
Ooh, looking forward to it.
Yeah, so it says here in our notes that you are the self-appointed Lorax. So I've never actually read it, haven't seen the movie. So can you explain to me and all the people out there who might not know what the Lorax is, what it is?
Yeah, you should definitely at least watch the movie or read the book if you can. So the Lorax is a little orange hairy man with a handlebar mustache.
Sweet.
And though I don't look like the Lorax, I don't think, he does speak for the trees. He says, I'm the Lorax, I speak for the trees. And I like to think I speak for the trees, or at least I try to protect them.
Okay.
And I am a conscious consumer. You remember in elementary school we used reduce, reuse, recycle?
Yeah, vaguely. It was so long ago. But yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
So on my soapbox for a minute, they should be done in that order.
Okay.
Reduce the amount of single-use plastics that you consume. And then if you do consume them, reuse them first. And then recycling should be your last resort, just because some things don't always get recycled because it's based on a commodity kind of a situation. So, you know, a lot of people, I think, use the reusable grocery bags, reusable water bottle. I see your water bottle you carry around, so you're doing your part there. I try to avoid plastic straws. I don't buy new shampoo bottles anymore. I just refill them.
Okay.
But there's a Dr. Seuss quote that goes along with all of this. Okay. Some people think, really? You make your own laundry soap with water and an Nalgene? And you do what? That doesn't really make a difference. Well, here, this is what the Lorax and Dr. Seuss say.
Hit me.
Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing's going to get better. It's not. So if we all do our part, it's kind of just that quote just speaks to the individual responsibility we all have. If we all think it's not going to make a difference, then it's not. But if we all do those little things, maybe we can make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Count me among the Lorax. I guess we're both Loraxian.
There you go.
Okay.
Yeah.
And speaking of kind of individual responsibility, the county as a collective is taking sustainability very, very seriously. That's our conversation today. We talked to a couple of members of the sustainability crew here at Jefferson County, Kevin Trautman and Jessica Hymer. And we get into some of the stuff that the county is doing to boost the sustainability of our community.
Yeah, it's a really interesting conversation. Here it goes.
All right. Today we have a couple people from our sustainability team here at Jefferson County. We have Kevin Trautman and Jessica Hymer. If you could, both of you, just kind of go through your roles you play within sustainability at Jeffco.
Introduce yourselves for us.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Kevin Trautman, Sustainability Coordinator. I've been with the county for about 3.5 years now, and I was the second addition to our, what was at the time, 2-person sustainability staff, so I wear a lot of hats. But we do all things sustainability, both internal to the county and community-facing programming, including implementation of our countywide climate action plan.
And I'm Jessica, relatively new to the sustainability team myself, just joined in February, but not new to Jefferson County. I worked in the public health department for the past 3 years and did a lot of work in environmental justice and bringing that to the sustainability team as their resiliency coordinator. So really looking to bring work towards communities, building more sustainable structures within their comfortability and livability as we're experiencing more extreme weather, extreme heat, and just kind of combating the climate crisis from all angles.
Yeah, you touched on it a little bit there, but why did you guys both get into sustainability?
I mean, at least for me, I have a very personal tie to it. I've always been extremely passionate about the environment, and back in my college days, gosh, I explored that more and really just wanted to take on a professional role that was impactful to others, was impactful to the environment. And Jefferson County really has allowed me to build that for myself. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think similar reasons. I think there was always a personal connection for me with sustainability and getting to work in a field that I was passionate about. I'm from Jefferson County originally, so it's very cool to get to do that in my hometown and to feel like I have a positive impact in the community I am from. And I think it's also very broad and exciting, and you get to work on lots of different things and incorporate lots of different disciplines.
Before we kind of get into what the county is doing sustainability-wise, we wanted to see if you could give us some high-level misconceptions about sustainability, and then we'll dive into how we can combat those.
I think I was pondering this a little bit before we got on the call, because I think you hear, sustainability is a big buzzword and it means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And I think, there's a lot of things you could say here. But one thing I was thinking is I think a lot of people tend to think of sustainability as sacrifice. Like it means, doing less of the things we like or having inferior versions of the things we like. And I think that's kind of a misconception. I think there's a lot of things that are one-to-one easy replacements that you wouldn't even notice. You have a more sustainable version. And I think, too, that sustainability is a way to kind of make your life more engaging and meaningful. And I think by changing certain behaviors, you can actually increase your own sense of well-being and meaning while also having a positive environmental impact. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, and to piggyback off of that, I think along with the lifestyle changes, a lot of people think that it's either like too expensive or just like unattainable to, make their homes more energy efficient and install upgrades and the time and commitment that it takes. But in the long run, they really end up paying for themselves. You end up saving so much money. It's going back into your pocket as the years go by. We see this a lot, like with electric vehicles alone, and that's not even talking about what you can achieve with utility bill savings. So, yeah, a lot of people just see that up front and get a little, apprehensive.
I'm glad you guys mentioned all of those as misconceptions. So let's talk about the good stuff. Let's talk about what actions the county is taking to actually make Jeffco more sustainable.
Sure. So speaking generally, our sustainability program, the genesis of that program was focused internally on county facilities. So it really started with kind of what Jessica was just talking about on the investment up front for cost savings. And we've really seen a lot of reward on that. So our county buildings are really energy efficient, for example, now, and we've done a lot of water conservation work. So we've been able to do a lot of that work, and that's ongoing, things change. And then the other main piece of the puzzle right now is the Climate Action Plan, which I mentioned a little bit earlier, that was adopted in 2022 by the Board of County Commissioners. And that sets Jefferson County's target for emissions reduction, as well as setting a resiliency goal, which Jessica will speak more about some of the things that involves later. But there's a lot of things the county are doing. And we're the sort of the lead implementers of that plan, but also sustainability is something that a lot of different county departments have their hands in. And there's a lot of initiatives ongoing right now.
Yeah, you mentioned resiliency. And Jessica, you're a resiliency coordinator, right? So what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, it's a new role to the sustainability team, to Jeffco, and I've kind of been paving that path. So a lot of my work focuses on building strength in communities, and especially those that face the brunt of climate change more significantly than others. Thinking of extreme weather, extreme temperatures. Like at first when thinking of sustainability, you think of LED light bulbs, you think of clean energy, windmills, etc. People don't think about sustainability in the sense of, our communities, families, what their living conditions are like, their ability to have comfortable and safe homes. So a lot of my role with resiliency is building up that part and, tackling sustainability from that angle, while also, of course, like Kevin was saying, taking into account our climate action plan objectives. So what this means is bringing tangible projects. So a lot of project management is involved in my role, and this overlaps with other areas like emergency management, public health, housing, et cetera. And I can get more into the details and the nitty-gritty of those projects in the next couple questions, too.
You kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, especially with the barrier to entry is a big issue for a lot of people. Can you talk about the program to help weatherize low-income housing to reduce residents' energy bills. And can you talk about that program and how that's going to help sustainability and also, maybe some affordability in the community?
Yeah, so that's been kind of like my brainchild over the past couple of years. I've actually been overseeing this weatherization project for the past 3 years. It started out as a grant project idea. We wanted to apply for funds being offered from the state, but essentially over time, we piloted it in one community, specifically a manufactured home community, to see what would happen if we implemented these upgrades for folks at no cost to them. And we ended up weatherizing 14 homes, and this was in the community of Golden Hills. And so when you think of weatherization, that's a term that people may not know, but it includes a wide variety of retrofits, roof repair, replacing roofs, windows, doors, insulation, skirting repair for the home, siding repair and replacement. It really depends on the home's needs. And the way that we go about identifying those needs, we do an energy audit for each home before deciding what work we're going to be completing. So we're kind of taking, instead of a one-size-fits-all approach, we're taking a unique, tailored fit depending on what inefficiencies we're seeing. And over the past couple years, we've expanded the project as well to 2 other communities, Mitchell's Mobile Home Court and Elevado Estates, where we did 10 additional homes per community, so totaling 34 homes now. And the really exciting part of the rebirth of this project is now, instead of it being a grant-funded initiative, this will be a county-offered program that we hope to replicate yearly. And there's potential to see if we could expand it to single-family homes, even multi-family residence apartment type living situations where, of course, with approval from the homeowner, to do services for renters who've been living in these properties for a while. But yeah, what we've seen as far as results is much better comfortability and resiliency to extreme weather, extreme temperatures, reduced energy costs for homeowners as well, and just the gratitude that we receive is overwhelming. We've done this in a variety of different communities. We've worked with folks who don't speak English as their first language. We've really tried to make this as accessible as possible. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what else we can do this year and beyond.
And Kevin, you mentioned water conservation a little bit earlier, and I think that's top of mind for a lot of people right now. Restaurants, you're going to have to ask for water. I've already experienced that. They're just not handing out water willy-nilly, especially given how dry our winter has been. What is the county doing in all the water conservation efforts there?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. So, I think everybody is aware that we had a incredibly dry winter and that water conservation will certainly be top of mind this summer. We're excited. Last year was our first year of offering from Jefferson County for all Jeffco residents water conservation programming through Resource Central, which is a fairly well-known regional organization that works with a lot of municipalities and other water providers within the region. So we're excited to offer that to all Jeffco residents again this year. It has a suite of programming, including garden in a box discounts, which are really popular, low water garden kits for people to put into their gardens. There's a lawn replacement program, which enables people to eliminate some of their very thirsty turf grass. And this is a timely year for that. And then there's also a slow the flow program where they'll come out at no cost and check on your irrigation system and make sure you're watering within efficient timetables, watering the right amount to keep your grass and plants healthy, but not over watering and things like that. So we're really excited about that programming. And yes, it'll be a good year for it, I think.
Can you share some details about the grant program for local sustainable food production?
The Climate Action Plan / Local Food Systems Grant we're really excited about. We launched that program last year. It's in partnership with us, our sustainability team, and Jefferson County's food policy and food systems team. So they do a lot of this type of work already, but we were able to partner to bring this grant to the table. And so One of the sectors in our climate action plan is specifically related to food and waste within the county, and that includes local food production and food access, because not everybody has equal access to healthy, locally grown food within Jeffco. So the intent of this grant is to help local food producers and distributors to improve food access in Jefferson County and to do so in a sustainable, climate-friendly way.
How does the department set and measure sustainability goals each year, and what metrics can you use to track progress on sustainability issues?
So we work with a variety of different metrics, and we use those to set goals. As I mentioned, we have an overarching goal within our climate action plan that's a specific emissions reduction, which is a 73% reduction by 2035 of our 2015 baseline inventory of emissions. So that's one of our North Stars. In terms of everything we do, we try to relate to an emissions reduction target. The second goal within the climate action plan, as I mentioned, is the resiliency goal. And as you can probably imagine, it's a little harder to quantify metrics related to resiliency than it is to emissions. So there's always a little bit of give and take, and with a program like the Food Systems Grant, we have some smaller metrics we measure. We can, if a project wants to do a little bit of on-farm composting, for example, we can come up with, some metric for how much material was composted. Or if they're offering educational program, we can come up with how many people they were able to move through that programming and spread some awareness through that way. So we use, a variety of metrics, and we also have our climate action dashboard, which you can see online. It's a publicly available tool where we've tried to break down the 6 sectors in our climate action plan with a variety of sub-indicators that help see, where we're making progress in our community on these goals, and where we have a little bit of work left to do.
I have a question about the sustainable food program. So you were talking about food distributors and food producers. You're working with them. So is this like a situation where maybe one of their clients doesn't want certain vegetables or something, and then you're able to give those to people in need, like in food deserts and stuff like that? Or how does that work exactly?
So we gave grants last year to a variety of different types of organizations. Some were local farmers, some were food distributors like Go Farm and Golden. I'm not sure if you've heard of them or not. But so some of the projects, the short answer to your question is yes, things like that are happening. Some of the projects helped put cold storage units both on farms and in food pantries and things to prevent food spoilage from happening so quickly. So more food was able to be, eaten in the long run by people. And other projects do too try to divert food towards food pantries and save otherwise food that may have been wasted otherwise. And there is a focus on trying to make food more accessible to those who may not be able to afford, some of these. As, we've talked about before, like sustainability sometimes comes with a price tag up front, and locally produced, maybe organic produce can be quite a bit more expensive than what you may be able to get otherwise. So yeah, that's top of mind.
So it sounds like, with these grants, it's kind of forming other partnerships in the community. So I don't know if there are partnerships with Jeffco Sustainability, specifically working with maybe schools and education or other nonprofits or local farms like you mentioned.
So schools specifically is something we're trying to get a little bit of momentum going on right now. I think you may be aware Jeffco Public Schools hired their first sustainability director of sustainability or sustainability manager. I might be getting the title slightly incorrect, but I believe early last year, or possibly at the very tail end of the year prior to that. So we've had a lot of correspondence there, and we're working to see how we can work together to support efforts and do some mutually beneficial things. In terms of what you talked with nonprofits, not a lot cooking there yet. We've discussed doing some things, partnerships in the commercial sector. Nothing is happening right now, but those are all things we'd like to get going in the future.
Yeah, the work with schools, I feel like it would be super important. I'm sure there's a lot of food waste in those cafeterias. I can imagine. And maybe composting in some of the schools would be an awesome start. And then the kiddos say, well, we do this at school. We should do this at home, Mom. That'd be a good way to kind of educate the broader community for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that also getting kids involved and exploring that, just like childlike curiosity about, how do these systems work? And being able to bring that back home, like you were saying, it really makes it, a much like a family approach towards living more sustainable lives. And I think it's something that could really become a topic of conversation, and you can open that door and see what other ways that you can move into the sustainability space from there.
Speaking of kind of that childlike curiosity and having those conversations about things that are happening right now, from what I've discovered is the Earth Day kind of formed out of the photo from the Apollo missions of the entire Earth. And so that kind of started the environmental movement. And obviously it's Earth Month right now. Earth Day will be later in the month. And Artemis 2 is now flying to the moon, maybe flying back by the time people listen to this podcast. But they've sent out pictures of the Earth. And I wanted to get your take if you've seen them. And what does it really mean to like look at the Earth from that view and why the Earth is important? Why would an environmental movement come from something like that?
You know, it's funny you mentioned Artemis. I've been very much following the entire space journey of the astronauts, and I even sent in our teens chat for our sustainability team the live stream link. Like, everybody needs to be taking a look at this. It's history in the making again. And just seeing the side-by-side comparison. I don't know if you all have seen that picture where they take that photo from the first moon mission and put it next to the one that we just took. It's very humbling in a way to think about how, I don't know, it almost makes everything much more simple in my mind. You know, in our common day and age, we're constantly so bombarded by responsibilities in our lives and work and the news and friendships and everything under the sun. But then once you take a step back and you have that perspective of, you know, everybody's living their life on this planet and it's the only one we have, it really simplifies things. It gets rid of all of that noise. And the question then becomes, do we want to save it or not? Do we want to be stewards of the environment and be respectful to this beautiful planet that we call home, or let ourselves be completely engulfed by everything else, you know, crazy happening to the point where we say, you know, I don't care. And I don't know. It's a hard conversation to have with yourself. It is something to process. And I think it's incredible that I didn't know that about the origin of Earth Day. I think it's incredible that that was the photo that started the movement. It makes a lot of sense. It's the one pale blue dot in our solar system.
It's maybe it's precious, this little, hunk of rock that we have out in the middle of nowhere in space is the only thing that we know that has life, and it's worth preserving. It sounds like that's kind of the mission.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with everything Jessica said, and I think that word precious is a perfect. It's inherently beautiful in itself, right? And at the same time, every one of us, everyone we know and love, everything we care about, it's all here, whoever you are, whatever you believe, it's important to you. So I believe it is worth doing everything we can.
Oh, yeah. I think it totally puts it in perspective that, you're just one person. And a lot of people think, well, I'm not going to recycle because if I do it, it's not going to make that much of a difference if it's just me and my neighbor. But if everybody thinks that 8 million times over, that's when we have an issue. And so I feel like every individual actions do matter. And I'm the crazy person who refills my soap containers because I don't want to throw it away. I don't want to buy another plastic to not get recycled. And so, I put in my own sustainability efforts and try to be a conscious consumer. But, seeing the earth there, it really just shows how big of a difference our small actions can make. If we all work together, it can be hopefully successful to save it.
Yeah, I'm a huge advocate for the individual actions do matter. I know that in the grand scheme of things, they may be immeasurably small, but don't underestimate the impact of watching someone do something like that. Like that, the way that it spreads through a group of people and actual human connection is huge. And I think that's what it takes.
We just talked about the importance of getting the community involved. How can people reach out? What kind of resources do you have? How can we all help?
That's the question of the year, isn't it? Well, there's a variety of different resources ranging from the projects that we're trying to really dive into this year to LED light bulb kits that we have available for folks to install in their homes. Something that I'm actually really excited about that folks can potentially get involved with is that we have a e-bike grant that we were just awarded to distribute, electric bicycles to Jefferson County residents. And, that's a perfect example of how you can cut down on transportation emissions. It's actually one of the biggest source of emissions in our county is transport, cars, buses, etc. Cutting down on natural gas use and having that energy source come from electricity. So by, having more people take small commutes, like maybe to the grocery store or to your local library using an e-bike instead of their car, it not only cuts down on traffic, it cuts down on emissions, it increases physical fitness, it gets you outside, it improves your mood. There's so many benefits from that. That's a great way for people to get involved. It's a great resource that we hope to facilitate this summer. And yeah, I could get into more, but I'll let Kevin.
You said Jeffco residents. What about Jeffco employees? Can we?
That's a great question. So it's funny, we're actually offering this program in partnership with our human resources and clinic services. What our hope is we really want to target folks that are experiencing barriers to transport or are economically disadvantaged. And while I wish I could say that everybody can get an e-bike, we really want to focus on prioritizing folks who really could use the help first. And who knows, maybe if we have a huge success with this project, we can get more funding and give all of our employees an e-bike, maybe.
Well, it sounds like maybe if I might just need to move to Jefferson County. that might be the way to get around
that would cut down
this.
on your emissions during your commute, Johnny.
Yeah, there we go.
I'll say, too, very quickly that if you're listening to this, and hopefully this isn't the case, but I'm guessing it is for some of you that you're like, oh, Jeffco Sustainability? Jefferson County has a sustainability team? I didn't know about that. We are in the process of bringing on a communications specialist, and we'll be doing a lot more community outreach, calls to engagement. And so, if this is something you're interested in learning more about, please look to the future and a lot more communication from Jeffco Sustainability regarding how you can get involved.
Great plug there, Kevin. I appreciate that. And of course, we will always share out all of our departments and sustainability, more efforts we're willing to share on our platforms as well. So thank you guys so much. That was the whole point of this podcast, was to get the information out there. Kevin and Jessica, thanks so much for sharing. And I do hope that at least maybe people who maybe had a little question mark next to sustainability in their mind, maybe they'll go for the LED light bulbs. It's a simple fix. Maybe they'll try out for the e-bike grant, or maybe they'll, have their own personal responsibility and try out something else. Maybe bike to work.
I want to try the garden in the box.
There you go.
That's what I don't have enough room, so I can put a garden in the box on our little tiny patio. So
there you go.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for sharing everything. It's been awesome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It's been a pleasure.
So, Johnny, I kind of talked a little bit about what I do. I make my own laundry soap. I buy secondhand clothes.
There we go.
What do you do for the environment?
The one thing I thought of is we do recycle in my apartment, but our complex doesn't have the ability to recycle. They just can't afford it. So we drive it every week to my partner's parents' house, and we recycle that, and we make sure that the plastic bag is not in there, and reuse the plastic bag. And we also have those grocery bags that are reusable.
There you go.
That's you kind of have to do that in Colorado now, but
Unless you want to pay 10 cents for some paper.
Right. So how do you think we can both do better?
There's so much that we can do. And with Jessica and Kevin, we talked about e-bikes. I'd like to cut down on my emissions with the car. I have to drive to daycare sometimes, and then I have to drive to work, and then back, and then maybe we take 2 cars somewhere because we're coming from different spots. So there's definitely an opportunity for me to cut down, maybe get an e-bike and cut down on my emissions, and maybe just try and bike more, maybe carpool.
We have a great light rail station here at the county building. I want to try to utilize that more. It's not a far walk, and if we have the e-bike, it's not a far bike ride
For sure.
from my apartment there. So, I think maybe that's my goal. At least do it, maybe a couple times a month.
Well, we'll be each other's accountability buddies. How about that?
High five.
Okay.
Sounds good. Speaking of accountability, we want our listeners to keep us to account, and they can do that through a couple different ways. We have a SpeakPipe page. Can you kind of explain what SpeakPipe is?
Yeah, so it is kind of like a voicemail box, but you just click on the link in our show notes. We have it there for you. You can give us your feedback about the podcast. You can tell us maybe what you want the next podcast idea to be about, or you can tell us how you're being a good steward of the environment. Either one of those things, feel free to leave us a voicemail on our SpeakPipe page. The link is in our show notes.
Also in our show notes are our social media handles. That's at Jeffco Colorado. And you also can find the link to the Engage Jeffco newsletter, which is a nice complement to the podcast.
Well, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe and give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts while you're at it, and share with anyone who you think might enjoy this too.
Yes, please share. If you're in your car right now, pull over someplace safe, obviously safe.
Definitely make sure you're
Hit
safe.
that share button. If you're,
Yes.
hopefully, maybe you're on the light rail, and then
There
you can
you
just
go.
do it without having to, worry.
Yeah,
So,
if you're on your e-bike though, please just pump those brakes. We don't want you to crash.
yeah, maybe at your destination. Sure.
There you go.
Yeah.
Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Take care and keep looking out for each other, Jeffco.